I remember noticing how carefully my mother had folded the napkins. She only did that when something unpleasant was about to happen. The dining room smelled like cinnamon and roasted turkey. Christmas lights blinked softly from the tree in the corner. My brother Daniel carved the turkey with exaggerated patience, like someone performing a role he'd already been promised. My father cleared his throat just before dessert. That was the cue. "We should handle your grandfather's estate paperwork tonight," he said casually, like he was commenting on the weather. Clean, efficient. I had known the conversation would happen eventually. Maybe not tonight, but soon. The inheritance my grandfather left wasn't enormous, but it was enough. Enough to invest, enough to build something stable, but enough to make certain people uncomfortable. My father slid an envelope across the table toward me. "Not Daniel, me, you'll sign this over to your brother," he said calmly. "It's the right thing to do. He's the rightful male heir." Daniel didn't look at me. He studied his plate instead, mouth set in polite neutrality. It was a look he had perfected over the years, agreeable, harmless, inevitable. Something familiar stirred in my chest, not anger, not shock. Recognition. Every scholarship I'd earned had been described as lucky. Every promotion at work had been framed as surprising. Meanwhile, Daniel's half-finished business plans were always called promising. His risks were brave, mine were selfish. I didn't open the envelope. "I'm not signing anything," I said. The room went quiet in the way rooms do just before something fragile breaks. My father leaned forward slowly, as if I had misunderstood him. "This isn't about you," he said firmly. "This is about family legacy." My grandfather's name hung in the air. "It is about me," I replied. "He left it to me." My mother finally spoke. Her voice was soft but edged. He wasn't thinking clearly at the end. That one cut deeper than the rest. I stood up, not dramatically, just to create space between us. My father stood too. He grabbed my arm. Not hard enough to bruise. Hard enough to make the message unmistakable. "You will do as I say," he said quietly, his voice tight with control. "Don't embarrass this family." The room seemed to shrink round his grip. I noticed strange details. The pattern in the rug beneath my feet. The faint tremor in his wrist. The way Daniel still wouldn't meet my eyes. Then a voice from the kitchen doorway spoke calmly. "That won't be necessary." We all turned. Bennett stood there, still wearing his coat, snow melting on his shoulders, my grandfather's attorney. He had been part of our lives for 2 decades, though rarely at family dinners. My mother must have invited him earlier, assuming tonight would be routine paperwork. My father released my arm. "Why are you here?" he demanded. Bennett stepped forward without hurry. He placed a slim leather folder on the table beside the envelope. "Because your father anticipated this conversation," he said evenly. Silence thickened. He glanced at me, not for permission, but acknowledgement. I gave a small nod. "The estate was structured intentionally," he continued. "The primary inheritance was granted solely to your daughter. Any attempt to coerce a transfer under pressure would legally constitute interference." The word coerce landed heavily. My father's expression shifted, not to rage, but calculation. Daniel finally looked up. "This is ridiculous," he muttered. "It's just money." Mr. Bennett turned his gaze toward him. "Then it should not be difficult to earn your own." The statement wasn't cruel, just factual. To my mother's chair scraped quietly across the floor. "We're not coercing anyone," she said quickly. "We're discussing family unity." Mr. Bennett inclined his head slightly. "Then the discussion can continue without physical restraint." The atmosphere in the room changed. Something invisible but structural shifted, and my father adjusted his jacket as though preparing for a photograph no one was taking. "No one is forcing anything," he said smoothly, but he didn't reach for my arm again. The imprint of his grip was already fading, replaced by something steadier, a clarity months earlier. When my grandfather was still sharp enough to think several moves ahead, he had said something to me quietly. "They'll assume it belongs to him. You must decide whether you agree." I hadn't understood the full meaning of that sentence until now. "I don't," I said into the quiet room. No one shouted, no dishes shattered. The Christmas lights continued their patient blinking. My father sat down first. That mattered more than I expected. Daniel leaned back in his chair. For the first time in years, his posture looked uncertain instead of inevitable. "You're choosing money over family," my mother said finally. I shook my head. "I'm choosing not to surrender something that was given to me." There was no applause, no dramatic exit. Bennett gathered his folder but remained seated, a quiet reminder that authority had witnessed everything. Dinner slowly dissolved into small, careful movements. Plates cleared, chairs pushed back. Daniel left early. My mother avoided my eyes. When I put on my coat later, my father stood in the hallway. For a moment, I thought he might offer something conciliatory. Instead, he said, "This will change things." "I know," I replied. Outside, the winter air felt sharp and clean. In the weeks that followed, the phone calls became fewer. Holidays were negotiated instead of assumed. The warmth never fully returned to what it had once pretended to be, but neither did the expectation that I would simply comply. I invested the inheritance quietly and carefully, built something practical with it, steady, sustainable. My grandfather would have approved. No one ever apologized. Daniel started another business venture. My father never mentioned that Christmas again, but he never grabbed my arm again either. And sometimes power doesn't arrive as a shout. Sometimes it's simply the moment a hand lets go and never reaches back.